Okay.
Tim.
Okay, so welcome to another episode of Nomad Success Stories with Nexstand. I'm Nicole, your host. I've been working with Nexstand for nearly a year now. I think like the anniversary is coming up. But basically every month I get the chance to sit down with fellow digital nomads and business owners to talk to them about their journeys to success and how you can do the same. But I am going to do a very quick plug. So the latest K1 design of Nextstand, you can get it now with 10% off online for your first orders, and that goes across all Nextstand products. But it's just this is my favorite because it's the lightest, and Amber can attest to that because I gave her hers today.
Yeah, I'm excited.
So without further ado, let me introduce my dear friend Amber Toal. She's the founder of Black Box Marketing, and I'm super excited to have her here today because she can give us so many nuggets of wisdom when it comes to not only working harder and working smarter, but winning bigger. So welcome,
Thank
Amber.
you. Thank you. Good to be here.
So you are obviously based in Bali at the moment. Why Bali? You keep coming back here. What is it about Bali?
I actually was only originally supposed to be here for 3 months. I came February 2020. And of course, the pandemic happened, and there was a point where I had the option to go or to stay. And traveling and all of the chaos just to go home to family and potentially carry COVID home just didn't make sense. And then, yeah, made the call to stay. And at the time, of course, we didn't know how it would how it would go down, but ultimately ended up being the best decision that I've made. Like it was an incredible experience, built a lot of community. And now, even though it's 12, 13 hours ahead of my clients, I have to still keep coming back because all the people I love are here. I'm trying to see if we can also find another place that's maybe in Europe that everybody will go so that I don't have to do these late night calls. But you know, it's the people, it's the Balinese, it's the culture, and it's Bali.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful area of Indonesia for sure.
Mm.
But before this as well, you were in was it was before this that you were in Barcelona? That
Yeah,
was where you first moved to when you left your job in the
yeah,
US, am I right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I was in
Mm.
Barcelona. That was my jumping point, and yeah, that was a pretty big decision for me. I didn't know if I could take my contract work internationally. I didn't know if my clients would be put off by the time difference, but I have yet to have a single client that was opposed to it. And frankly, a lot of them are constantly asking me, "How is it? Where are you now? Oh, I wish I had done that when I was younger." And I just tell them, "You still can."
Have you had any of them like meet up with you at all while you've been traveling? Like they've happened to be on holiday or something like that?
Oh no, because we get 2 weeks paid vacation in the States. It's quite a shame, but the vast majority of them are, yeah, they're sticking fairly close to home. But I there have been plans made, loosely made, of retreats in Bali, or oh, we're looking into Spanish market. Maybe we need some time in our to suss out that market, but nothing yet. I'm still lobbying for it though.
So going back to that first decision then, because you were in sort of the more corporate world before then,
Mm.
what kind of sparked that decision to start your own business? Well, to go solo to begin with, and then to also start your own business.
Yeah, so my last corporate role, I was the director of marketing for a management consulting firm. And over the course of about 4.5 years, I worked with probably 2 to 3 dozen agencies, contractors, consultants, freelancers. So being on the client side of it, I saw all of the gaps in the market, some pretty bad delivery, and very high market prices. And so I really got a sense for just, theoretically, how would I do this differently? How would I position myself? What am I looking at for as a client? What is it that I need? What could be better in the delivery? What could be better in the client relationship management? So, inadvertently, I became intimately aware of all of the things that I believe as a client could be done better. And so at the point where I was ready for a career change, I, looked at, okay, do I stay in corporate? Do I climb the ladder, play the game, or do I strike out on my own? And I really had to sit back and look at my values, what's important to me, and freedom, and focusing on the aspects of marketing that I really want to focus on, and working with different kinds of companies and choosing how I bring my skill sets and my knowledge to the world. There was no alternative. I decided, yeah, I'm gonna strike out on my own, and it was a big leap. It was scary at first, but I had a fairly soft landing. Throughout the beginning of my career, I'd made some great contacts, and through my network, I mean, immediately after I left the firm, I already had several projects lined up. So the interim goal of I just wanted to meet the income that I was generating within 6 months to a year. By, I think, 4 months, I tripled it. So I was like, all right, well, we're going to do this. We're going to stay with it. I'm happier. I'm not as burnt out. I make my own schedule. So yeah, it was, I truly believe that when you are working in flow with the universe, anything that needs to happen in order for it to come to fruition, it will just fall in line. And so I was in on purpose, and the universe made sure that I was aware that this was the right move.
Yeah, and it's recognizing the signs as well of like knowing when to do that. So with for other people listening, what exactly is black box marketing? How do you describe it? What you do?
So I specialize in the executive coaching industry. I have I've been independent now for 7 years. It'll be 7 years in August. And I've worked with a couple of other different B2B industries, but mostly leadership development, executive coaching, management consulting, and a lot of tech as well. And my heart just really lies in this leadership consulting space and executive coaching space, because in executive coaching, it is one of a number of tools to improve the leadership in companies, but it's considered a black box, right? Because it's really focusing on the intangibles. How do you quantify the ROI of better communication, improved innovation, better workplace culture? And there's been a lot of work to start quantifying that, and executive coaching industry is still kind of stuck in this old world of, kind of feel good, don't worry about the return on investment, it's there, and it doesn't need to be. So I started Black Box because in and of itself, executive coaching is considered the black box of leadership development and leadership optimization. And within that, marketing in many industries is often a black box, really working to identify what are the best KPIs, the best metrics, what's aligned with organizational values and strategies, and what's actually working. So they kind of went hand in hand. And so, I work I specialize in executive coaching and leadership development, especially with a focus on the advancement and development of women leaders. So I work with organizations who are working toward these ends. But for the most part, a lot of professional services seem to find me. So I work also with financial services and a lot of B2B tech as well.
I'd like totally relate to the sort of idea that there's so many parts of marketing that people think aren't that you can't put numbers to. And like with past businesses I've worked for, that's always been like, how do you find how do you know what the value is? What's the ROI of this, doing this and doing this? And people really struggle with it
Right.
because it's hard to put a number on a lot of those things. So yeah, that's really cool that you're working.
And that's the interesting part is that in marketing, there are tons of numbers, right? Like you can track performance, but a lot of times they're not aligned with organizational goals. And so, yeah, you are increasing your engagement rates, or you are improving your lead funnel progression, but to what end? Is it aligned with where the organization is going? And a lot of times that's where that disconnect is. And that's what I do in strategy development, is I'm helping tie those things in. So, if your company is looking to expand into Europe in the next 2 years, why hasn't there been any effort in, researching the European market, whichever specific countries you want to move into? What ends are you coming to that is actually helping that come to fruition? So there's a lot of numbers, a lot of KPIs, but a lot of times they're looking either at the wrong things, or just the traditional, like, this is what we've always measured, this is what we've always tried. And so it's really kind of bringing that all together and creating that story, right? It's almost formulaic, is where so many of my clients see the value, is just, if it's not aligned, it's not really going to matter what it is, that you're doing at the tactical level, if it's not supporting those strategic or organizational goals.
No, exactly. And it's also recognizing the difference between vanity metrics and the metrics that actually like push the needle as well. Because there's so many vanity metrics that we measure too.
Right. I think sometimes we just like to track things. What can we track? Let's track it.
So what piece of advice, like, now you've had 7 years of your own business, looking back on your whole journey, what's one piece of advice that you wish you had told yourself? Or maybe you have no regrets at all, but is there one piece of advice that you'd wish you kind of told yourself 7 years ago?
Oh, nobody is expecting as much from me as I am of myself. I'm still having to remind myself of this constantly. I have a lot of perfectionistic tendencies to a flaw. Like, it is, I consider it a core area that I'm trying to work on, because, for example, I work with a lot of tech, and I know the concepts of MVP, get it out, fail fast. And I'm like, yeah, that all sounds good. I'm not going to do that. I'm gonna launch this offering when it's ready. It's never going to be ready. And, like, as they say in tech, if you've launched once you're ready, you've launched entirely too late. And I came out pretty quickly when I first transitioned into working for myself. I would say that I spent a lot of time and energy trying to perfect everything, and it was always far exceeding what I had quoted, what was expected, and what was necessary. So I'd say, for somebody coming out of the gate, like, know what it is that you want to do, find your ikigai, and you might not know what that is, initially. Have a good sense for something that you actually want to spend your time doing. And it needs to be something you really enjoy, because you're going to have to learn entrepreneurship as well. It's not, oh, now I'm coming out and I'm just doing social media marketing. Yes, but you're also now learning how to win new clients. You're learning sales, you're learning finance, you're doing all of these things. So it's really important to find the thing that you will actually love and enjoy doing, and then just push forward. Just do it. Get yourself out there, and don't wait for it to be perfect. It will never be perfect. If you're anything like me, it's never going to be right, So I'd say that's the biggest thing. Just get out there, push an MVP out there, because a lot of your perfection and the end result will only come through trial and error. Like, it will never be as perfect as it is once you've iterated over and over again.
I think so many people, I mean, I'm definitely like you as well. Like, sometimes I focus on, like, perfecting things a little bit too much. But I've noticed with, like, a lot of people starting their businesses or starting courses, especially, I've noticed this, where people, they want to get it completely perfect before they launch it, like, absolutely perfect. And I always say to them, no, just launch.
Yeah.
Perfect after.
Yeah, it's especially for me. So I'm actually about to launch a digitized version of my strategy development process, so that I can reach more companies. And the challenge is, just I'm getting too far into the weeds. It's not a course yet. I want to, get into why we're doing this, and also you need to be doing X, Y, and Z. And in reality, I've already taken clients through it. I know it works. Like I have the proof of concept, and yet I'm still like, no, not yet. Oh, I need to do this. I need to do this. So, I'm still very much learning this, and it's always easier to tell other people, like, don't do as I do. Do better than me. Don't do what I'm currently.
Is that kind of core to it sounds like a little bit of like imposter, like would you think that's kind of mixed up with a little bit of imposter syndrome sometimes?
I would say so. I mean, even like I said, I saw what was out there. I think I had a very unique experience in that I worked with countless strategists. I mean, not countless. It was probably, I don't know, between 8, 10, maybe 12 in different areas, and then as well as just B2B marketing strategy in general. So competitors, if you will, I don't like to see them as competitors, but just for the sake of argument, I got to witness the full client relationship with what would be competitors. And yet I still find that if I'm not meeting my own expectation, it's not good enough. And feeling like, like, do I really know as much as I feel like I know? Do I, how am I an authority on this? And I think that happens, I would say I've met a couple of people that I think they could maybe use a little bit of imposter syndrome.
Sometimes people can use a bit of imposter syndrome.
I like, wow, where did you learn this? And to a degree I envy it, but also I think it's also, it's something that can be maybe not completely diminished, but managed. Like I feel that my imposter syndrome does keep me on my toes. It does keep me pushing forward. And like, okay, if I feel that I don't have enough expertise in this particular area, what am I going to do to circumvent that? And yes, you can argue I'm not addressing the root issue of it, but it is all a learning game, right? Like, working on that from a personal development standpoint, but in the same breath, okay, how can I appease that part of me that thinks I need to know more in this particular area, and then just kind of working through it in that regard, but also accepting that it's there, and it is just as they say, taxes and death, imposter syndrome is there. We suffer from it, and it's just kind of a part of life.
Yeah, definitely. And when you don't know something, it's always best to like I was listening to a podcast a while ago, I can't remember who said this, but they advised that you should find someone who's way more expertise than you, work with them and like study them, and then that's how you like find you solve problems. That's why I come to you and talk about business, because you know way more than I do.
I mean, it feeds into this notion of surrounding yourself with people who are either working toward or already in the phase of life that you want to be in, or the status or the success, whatever it is. And also too, like, I actually saw a quote, I can't remember her name. She's an activist for, she's a founder of Girls Who Code, and an advocate for working mothers. And she was on this podcast, and she was talking about how no matter how many rooms she goes in with some of the biggest hitters, she is consistently surprised by, like, wait, you're running shit? Sorry, I don't I don't know if I can cuss on here, but like this, but it's just humanizing, right? Because nobody has it all figured out. And that's another thing. Like, just remembering nobody has it figured out. Nobody.
Yeah.
And
everyone
if they do,
is faking it till they make it.
Yeah. And that's also part of the game. You're supposed to feel like you don't know what you're doing, but you also have to know that nobody else knows what they're doing. But we're all just figuring it out and trying to be happy and balanced in the same breath. So, just as long as that imposter syndrome is coming up, acknowledge it, sit with it, but also know that everybody in that room with you also has imposter syndrome to whatever varying degree, and it's a natural part of life. And
Yeah.
there are things that you can do to minimize it.
Definitely. Yeah. And I feel like it's such a sometimes I feel like it's such a shame because I feel like as women, we're more kind of happy to like talk about these
Mm,
things, and like I think it's so useful for like anyone watching right now who will be watching after to like hear someone who has a successful business still say that they also have like these moments of imposter syndrome. I think it's so
mm,
useful, but I often feel like there's so many I don't think it's as common with men. I don't think, from
mm,
my own personal opinion.
mm.
I think it's more common for us to talk about these things.
Yeah.
I think it's super helpful and really good. So for anyone that is now leaving like their job in corporate, or they're going freelance, or they want to scale their business in any way, what's kind of the three pieces of advice that you would give them for specifically leaving corporate and starting on their own?
Mm. I'd say the biggest one, as I mentioned earlier, is even if you don't have your finite service offering figured out, or what it is that you're going to do. Like, for example, I'm a strategist. When I left corporate, I knew that I wanted to do strategy development, but I had a
Hmm.
lot of limiting beliefs around, can I even do just strategy development? Maybe I need to go more so I had a lot of limiting beliefs with regards to what it was that I could actually go out and offer, even knowing that I hired people for the exact thing that I wanted to do.
Hmm.
So I tried a couple of different areas of marketing before. I was like, screw this, like I'm a strategist. That's where my value is. That's what I want to do. That's where I'm happiest. And as I mentioned earlier, moving into solopreneurship, entrepreneurship, freelancing, you're going to have to learn. Like, there is a learning curve. There are so many other elements to it. They're worth it, but there are other elements to it. So you really want to make sure whatever it is that you are offering, like whatever the service is, whatever the product is, that it is something that you enjoy, because it's got to be something worth learning all of these other elements of business. So the first thing that I would say is to really be honest with yourself about how much you love XYZ, whatever it is that you want to what you want to offer, and make sure that it's that you have a couple of options for your ikigai, right? Like, ikigai is a concept for a reason. Can you get paid for it? Are you good at it? And I can't remember the the other element right now. But so first would be finding something that you actually enjoy doing. The second would be, and this is a big one, this is what I tell any of my friends who are in corporate, that they're like, oh, I wish that I could just, I want to freelance, or I want to, but what could I offer? Any skill set or knowledge set that you have can be monetized.
Hmm.
It can be monetized, even as a consultant, like something that you can't actually do without being an employee. For example, insurance underwriter, or a
Hmm.
pharmaceutical project manager. Any of these things, you can be hired as a consultant, because if it is something that can be done,
Hmm.
and let's say you have experience in optimizing the ways in which it's done, or you have
Hmm.
a particular expertise in that buyer, whatever it is, you absolutely can be a consultant. It's just a matter of what is that value. So identifying what that value is
Hmm.
ahead of time, and go and just look at what's out there. I tell anyone, like, if you're even remotely considering going solo, go
Hmm.
check for projects that are listed. So Upwork, for example, there's all kinds of projects on there. It's not just graphic design and content writing. Like, I've gotten probably 3 or 4 high level strategy roles on Upwork,
Mm.
like 5-figure roles. And so they're out there. Just go see, go
Yeah.
look at what projects are posted, just so you know, like, what the market looks like. And then I think that oftentimes will give people a little bit more confidence of, okay, maybe there is demand for these skill sets that I have. And then I'd
Hmm.
say the third move would be to, like I said earlier, just just try. I mean, there's so many people talking about side hustles these days. See if, you can take on a consulting role or a freelance role or whatever it is, just something small, and
Yeah.
see, okay, does this work?
See every door as an opportunity.
Right, exactly.
Hmm.
And just put yourself out there.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
those are going to be the biggest steps, I'd say.
I can attest to the Upwork thing because I hire a lot of people on Upwork, and sometimes it's like you can be someone who's really good at baking bread, and I want them to do one video, and then because they bring value to that, and I realize they're actually quite good at writing, I'm like,
Mm,
oh, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do this?
right.
And before they know it, they've got a full-time job. So like, it's sort of going on Upwork is that I can attest to that. That's very
No.
true. You start off with one job, and it can turn into like a full client.
Right, exactly. I mean, that's the way that the world is going. Companies are tired of, paying all of the non-financial compensation aspects
Mm.
of employees. And, that's a conversation for another day. But, that's outsourcing is not slowing down.
Mhm.
It's only continuing to grow. And I think it's a beautiful opportunity for um, individual
Mm.
contributors and employers to benefit from that open market. Now, again, there are a lot of asterisks with that statement, but it's a beautiful time to be an empowered individual contributor because there's so much work out there that can be done on your own time with your own terms and conditions and all these things.
And then that ties in really nicely with my next question, which is actually about how do you determine, it's a tricky one, but how do you determine your price
Mm.
and how do you determine your self-value for the services you give? Because I think that's I think so many people undervalue themselves, and then there's a few people who might overvalue themselves. So how
Mhm.
do you find that?
Yeah. Um, so I was in a pretty unique position to that I had paid for these services in the past. Um, so I had an understanding of the market, but a lot of it is going to come down to who your buyer is, right?
Hmm.
Like the better that you know your buyer, the better you can assess, okay, what is going to be my price fit? What is the tier that I'm going to be offering my services at?
Hmm.
For me, being in strategy, it's actually quite funny because so much of it is you just pay a big number and there's no guarantee, or it's like we have to have a go to market strategy, we have to have a marketing strategy, we know that costs a lot, just what are we willing to pay?
Hmm.
um, and again, coming from that client side of it, even as a contractor, I don't think that's how it should be. It shouldn't just be this is the going rate. So what I did, I would say probably about year 3 or year 4, I started doing ROI calculations for my potential clients. It required a good bit of research into the client and then working with them to get some of their numbers ahead of time. But um, with a bigger project like a go-to-market strategy, there's a bigger price tag on that. So they want to see that you're willing to put in the value, that you are creating a custom approach based on their specific needs. And so what I would do is I would get some numbers from them with regards to, it would be specific to what it is in particular that I'm working on. But average sales cycle length, conversion rates for each of the different stages of the funnel, what channels they were working on, how quickly they were moving leads through their funnel, what their average transaction price was, what are the different varying pricing tiers for their packages. And once I had this, which sometimes, a lot of times clients don't have this, but if you say, okay, give me an estimate. And then a few times I've just said, just send your numbers to me. Obviously, this is all after NDAs are signed. But at that point, I could take a look at what it is that's going on. And at this point, I've already done a lot of pre-work anyway, so that I can understand, is this going to be a good fit? because that is something I'm very particular about. Like, I will not take on a project if I don't feel like I'm the right fit for it.
Have you
And
turned
then
down a lot of projects?
um, once it gets to the point of a conversation, no. But I've turned down a fair amount of projects that have come my way that I'm just like, hey, this is not, either my wheelhouse, or I think, for that particular project, you would want to be more specific, and then I'll either refer out to my network if I have somebody that I think would be a better fit, or, I just say, right now is not it's not the right fit.
Yeah.
But then once I have this information, I can then say, okay, based on what it is that you're doing, the marketing efforts that you are doing, and all of the numbers that you have provided, I will provide an estimation of, okay, I think we can improve your revenue conversion rates by X amount by going with this approach, which would result in, a general ROI of X amount. And of course, with the caveat that you have to follow my strategy to a T, which I don't do the execution. Yeah. But if you do, these are the numbers that you can see. And I'm very confident, and I have hit my numbers. And it's just something that it requires a lot of upfront work. I wouldn't recommend this, for every type of freelance work, but even so much as, just go on Upwork and see. So there's a client side and there's a contractor side, and you just look at other contractors. So if you're a graphic designer, go check out some graphic designer, see what kind of work they're producing, look at what the average is, see. Another big important thing that I always tell, because I work with a bunch of freelancers and others who are just getting into it, don't just look at their posted hourly rate, also look at what they actually were paid to do the work, right? Because a lot of people will put a certain rate, but the types of projects they take on, that might not be, suitable. Exactly. Yeah. So for longer projects, my 1 hour strategy consulting fee, I'm certainly not making my clients pay that much money for a 3-month contract, but yeah, so ROI based pitching, ROI based proposals are super, super helpful. When that's not necessarily possible, just go check out, what's going on in the market, see what others are doing. There's tons of groups, Facebook groups, WhatsApp groups, and just ask around. People are, even if, competitors, people are happy to share what their rates are.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I definitely relate to that. I think when I first started out like years ago, I had no one to benchmark with because I was in the UK and no one else around me actually had like a similar job to me. They were like in civil servant jobs or in public service jobs.
Right.
So I didn't have anyone to benchmark, and it wasn't actually until I sort of left I was around people within my industry and who could advise me and tell me like what level I really should be like pitching myself at. So yeah, that comparison really helps. And then also, I think that's really good advice with the pitching, proposing with an estimated ROI. It's almost like saying, this is the value I can bring your business.
Right, exactly. And then a lot of times it just makes, it's a great business case for like, you're paying me this, which you might scoff at this number, but based on my calculations, my experience, and what I've seen before, this is what you could, expect to receive. But again, I do want to make it a point, do not ever promise ROI unless that is part of your go-to-market and the way that you do your sales. Because, a lot of times there will be, for me, for example, I've never had a client that, came back, oh, we didn't hit those numbers. But I do know that there are like, parts of the strategies that they opt out not to do, or something changes midway through the year. And we work through these with the consulting, but, you can never guarantee, right? Like there are
Yeah.
too many different things that can happen, but the ROI has been, I haven't lost a single contract that I have proposed with ROI based numbers. And one of those was just looking at the number, I had that sticker shock for myself. My imposter syndrome flared up. But once I did my own process and I looked at it, I was like, oh, it's pennies. It's pennies. How they can't say no. And if my imposter feeling self can be like, oh yeah, that's that, then they can. And they were, and they were like, absolutely. So it's just, having a smarter strategic way of going about your pricing if your particular industry or offering allows for it.
Yeah, definitely. And so with that, since you've been traveling for quite a lot of years now, how important is it to find your network and to actively network within your industry as well? Like, yeah, what kind of networking do you do while you're moving around?
So for me, network has so many different meanings. Networking has so many different meanings, and it brings up a lot of angst or disgust. And like a lot of people don't like networking, and me in particular, like the idea of small talk and pitching as soon as I meet you. That's not my thing. However, networking to me is incredibly important in the way that I choose to do it. So it's more so about letting it be known what I offer, and then at any given point offering value. So for me, I sell my expertise and I sell my knowledge. I can easily share that. It is no skin off my back. In fact, I love doing it. I don't need to be paid for every tidbit. Like I meet with people all of the time. I can't tell you how many contracts that I've won, how many new clients I've gotten, because I did an hour with someone that, it was initially supposed to be a 30-minute consulting call, and it turned into an hour, and it was just, there was a lot of value there. So I ended up, getting referred to another, then I got a bigger contract. To me, if I can offer value, that is the only networking that I need. So I think it's a lot about just letting what it is that you do be known, having conversations, just talk shop. Like just, if you ever have any questions about X, Y, and Z, whatever, let's just talk about your targeting. Like, no, you don't need to book a consulting call. Maybe I'm a bad businesswoman in that respect, but for me, it's worked out pretty well. But just talking, and even if you deliver actual, I keep going back to social media management or graphic design, but just offer your expert, show that value, show that knowledge in, in a way that's just like I'm happy to help. And also I have so much knowledge. I don't need to hoard it. I don't need to gatekeep. I don't need to say, and now you can find out. And that's the thing that I absolutely cannot stand with this new way of marketing. It like teases this idea of value add, but in reality, there's no value add, and it's always at the get in my funnel, buy this $1 thing, then buy this $3 thing. And in my experience, if you are offering no strings attached value, and I mean no strings attached, and you're having these conversations, and there's no expectation of follow up, it attracts more business than walking around with who can I make a client. It's one of those things where it's counterintuitive. And I mean, I know successful people who do go the other route. I can only speak for myself and a couple of other consultants that I know that go the same route of like, I love to help people. I enjoy it. I love to talk about marketing. I will talk about marketing all day.
Human element to it.
Yeah. I'm not a walking, cash register. I'm not here to turn every conversation into a monetary transaction. To me, that's just A, not fun. B, I think that turns you into a pariah. So that I think is where that networking has really gotten a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. Is people are wanting to sell to me, or I need to go sell myself. No, just talk shop, and that can turn into revenue 3 months down the road, a year down the road, 2 years. I've had I had a referral come in probably 2 years ago based on a conversation that I'd had, I think, 4 or 5 years
Oh,
prior.
wow.
And
Oh my God.
yeah, like, and mind you, you know, this concept of the cobbler's children have no shoes.
Say
Like,
that again.
the cobbler's children have no shoes,
Oh,
meaning that
yeah,
like the
yeah,
guy who makes the shoes, his kids don't even have shoes. So
yeah,
I am the cobbler's children because,
yeah.
you know, I talk about staying top of mind, all of these things, but for the most part, I've been at capacity for many years. I don't do my own marketing, but I've also been in a fortunate position to where I haven't needed to, because I do have these conversations. I do have, you know, this life approach of, I just want to help.
Yeah, you bring
And I think that,
value.
yeah, like, I think that's, you know, the universe sees that and it's like, you know what, you've had many conversations for free. Let's throw you some, let's throw
Yeah,
you some.
no,
And it's
definitely,
just
and
always like,
it's
oh,
like, and it's like it's not conceited. Like I feel the same as you. I've seen like a few things within like the marketing space where it seems like more conceited. Like oh, we can have a little conversation, but if you really want the details,
yeah,
like you have to pay like $500 for this 1 hour.
right,
And like obviously there's a time and a place for
right,
that, but I feel like with networking, that's just it's more it should be like more of a natural, like casual um situation. And I
right,
definitely like especially with the communities that we're in, especially like with the traveling kind of digital nomad communities, so many people will like have businesses that you can help or
mm-hmm,
have skills that can help you, and it's almost like a trade swap. And it's
right,
yeah, I think you can also meet so many people within this space as well.
right. Yeah, absolutely.
hmm so so speaking about that, how do you manage your work-life balance, managing your work, being at capacity,
Yeah.
and also managing to enjoy the freedom of travel and the freedom of living your life on your terms as well?
Mm. Well, I would say that I'm not 100% managing it. I often say that I work from different cities all over the world, but I end up like I go and I work. You know, I'm just finding new co-working spaces. I'm just finding new cafes, new Airbnbs to work from.
hmm
Um, Part of this is because I genuinely just love what it is that I do. Another part of this is I'm still trying to find that balance myself,
hmm
especially right now. So because I am building out these strategy toolkits,
hmm
and I'm super excited for it, and I'm ready to get it out there. That I'm not doing as good of a job in making sure that I'm finding that balance. And it's, I mean, it's a constant effort, right? Like it's
mm
you I haven't met a single nomad who has the right balance, right? Like the people
No.
that look like they have the right balance, they're not working very much. Either they figured it out the 4 hour work week, which a lot of them haven't, but they are just working 4 hours a week.
hmm
Um, you know, or their specific circumstances allows for it, right? And there's
mm
phases of life. Like for me right now, I would say for the last year, I've been struggling with work life balance because that's when I started building out my toolkits. I started
hmm
taking my clients through them. And so finding that balance is like I said, it's a day to day thing. But honestly, for me, this is part of why I was ready to get back to Bali, is because when you are nomadic and you are moving place to place every 3 4 weeks, it's,
hmm
you know, it's not just moving, it's finding accommodations, it's finding a gym, finding a grocery store, finding your where it is that you're going to work. It's all of these things.
Yeah.
It's life decisions being made every 3 to 4 weeks, and when you're
hmm
not doing that or you're not in that place,
Oh,
you're
it's
looking for the
yeah.
next place. Yeah, so for me, the way that I try to find the balance is I have to take it one step backwards and I have to say, okay, less travel. I need to be
mm
more stationary. I need to
Yeah.
have my routine, like routine. Have I mastered it? No, but I know that is where my balance will come in, is
hmm
once I have this routine. And so yeah, just working to have that discipline that, you know, yes, I'm tired, but I am going to the gym. Yes,
Yeah.
I need to get started on work, but I am going to meditate and doing the things that I know that I need to do. Like I am genuinely happier when I am working out and I am meditating regularly.
mm
Yet, if you look at my my agenda for the last 6 months, it's like you're not doing what you know will make you, make your life more stress free. And
Mhm.
um, so, yeah, I will say I have not mastered it whatsoever. I'm trying.
On your way.
If you have another guest on that has figured it out, please let me know because it's
Well, there's like so
um,
many people who do the fast travel, and I have no idea
oh,
how
yeah,
productive. I have no idea because
yeah.
I wouldn't be so productive if I was moving around so much. Because
No,
I need routine, and Bali's so good for routine as well. Like, well, Canggu's really good for routine.
yeah.
We
I
also
did
go
it.
to the same gym,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
it's
Yeah,
like the same. Like, yeah, we go to the gym every day, and it's just so easy to get into a routine for sure.
yeah. I did a about I think 2 years ago. I looked back at my planner for the year, and I tracked daily workouts, meditation, breathing exercises, and water intake. And I got really nerdy with it and realized that it takes me, on average, one full week to get into any semblance of a rhythm once I reach a
Mm,
new place.
mm,
And when I am moving every month, I'm taking that first week off, um, as far as productivity is concerned, and then that final week of preparing for the next move. So
mm,
in essence, I have 50% of my month where I'm actually productive,
mm,
and it's you know as they say, what gets measured gets managed.
mm,
And so just trying to be more mindful of that, slowing down, not traveling
mm.
as much, especially if I'm not taking the time and effort to actually get out and see the places that I'm in.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's a big component of it.
Definitely. And another part of it, well,
Mhm.
soon to be, will be your next stand that I know your boyfriend is a huge fan of.
Yes, yes, he is.
Do you when you're working at the moment, I know you have a different setup, or you had a different setup before, but do you suffer with sort of like a neck ache or anything like that when you're working?
Mine is usually lower back because I'm a sloucher,
Hmm.
as I'm doing right now. So I'm more down. And so it's my neck usually seems to be okay. It's usually that I'm getting eye level by getting
Hmm.
down, which of course affects my lumbar and my lower back. Um, so yeah, that's definitely something that I am very aware of. And he likes to constantly, he'll come up and touch the back of my neck or like my spine, like just to remind me, like, sit up, like it's gonna hurt you.
Hmm.
um so yeah, it's on the list of work-life balance, the things you should be
Yeah.
doing. Things.
So yeah, now you have your next stand. You can hopefully work in
Exactly,
a much more get your routine with that as well.
exactly.
And so to kind of close off, I have a little fun question that I've never asked anyone before. So you'll be the first person.
Cool.
If you could brainstorm, have like a brainstorm session with any business mogul that you adore at the moment or previously, who would it be and why?
Hmm. I'm gonna have to go with, and this might be an odd answer, but I'm gonna have to go with Martha Stewart,
Ooh.
because I mean, she built an absolute empire. Talk about knowing who your consumer is, getting them the products and services that they wanted,
Hmm.
and then creating a suite of tool. Like, it was a proper empire. I mean, even to this day, she's still thriving. Plus, she's got the lessons learned of what not to do when it comes to taxes. Plus, I think it would just be enjoyable. Like, I always thought, she's the stiff older, lady, and saw her stuff everywhere. But the older I get, I'm like, she's a whole vibe. Like, she not only did she build this empire herself, like both brand and product, or like a personal brand,
Hmm.
corp company brand, and then all of these different products and um, channels, to the degree that she was omnipotent throughout
Mm.
the 90s and the 2000s, maybe even the 80s. I
It's
don't
just
know how far back it goes.
iconic.
Yeah, absolutely iconic.
Hmm.
And I think she's just, I don't know, I don't know if it's just we're just now understanding how cool she is.
Hmm.
Like maybe she had to go to prison to get the street cred. I don't know, but she's I think, yeah, I think that would be an enjoyable brainstorm. And
Hmm.
yeah, I think it would just be a full vibe. I think
Yeah,
it would be
definitely.
amazing.
100%. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so much for coming on. We overran a little bit,
Okay.
but that we just talk and
Yeah,
talk and talk, and just
I
easily
know.
time flies.
No. Oh my God, it's been an
Yeah,
hour.
I know.
I love
I know.
talking.
I know.
That's
Originally,
why I'm a
originally
consultant.
I said to Amber originally, oh, just it'll be 30 minutes. It'll be 30 minutes. So that I always go on. Oh, but that's like our coffees too. Always go
Yeah.
on.
Um,
That was super insightful. Like, so I think there's so much value in that. So I think anyone who
Good.
hasn't seen this can watch this after. And yeah, thank you so much for
No,
coming on.
of
Really
course.
happy.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And thank you for everyone watching, and thank you to everyone who's going to be watching. Yes, we'll post it after. And yeah, thank you so much for coming. I will wish you goodbye and see you in a
Yeah,
bit.
sounds good. Bye. Thank you.
Bye.